All right, so it's time to move on to the next agenda for today.
So earlier we have explored how the pandemic reformed our education system through the accelerated use of digital tools.
So in fact, all these digital reformations extend to not only the education, but also many other cross-cutting industries such as financial tools. Think about our e-wallets or...
How many of you here still carry cash with you? Oh wait, let me go the other way. How many of you here are completely cashless? Wow.
Completely cashless.
You are making robbers going out of business.
All right, so
with digital technology developing so quickly, our policy frameworks remain ambiguous. So how do we tackle all the identity theft, especially we are all using our e-wallet? You can use a touch ID to basically unlock everything. And how much freedom can we get within the digital space?
So for this coming session, we're going to explore the dangers and opportunities within the digital space together. The topic will be transiting into a just digital space. Please welcome our speakers. First, Dato Ahmad Zaki Zahid, Chief Strategy Officer of Digital Nasional Berhad.
Mr. Max Azaham, Senior Vice President, Head of Digital Business of Malaysian Industrial Development Finance.
And Ms. Surina Shukri, Founding Team for Women in Blockchain Asia.
Dr. Fadullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Director of PayNet.
And ladies and gentlemen, our moderator, Ms. Nushazana Amiruddin, Head of Sales, Enablement and Innovation, Maxis Berhad. All right, please be seated. And now, over to you, Ms. Nushazana.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Shaza. I am the Head of Sales Enablement and Innovation for Maxis. And today I have 4 distinguished speakers who are also known as our top digital leaders in Malaysia. So without further ado, we're just going to dive right into the discussion because I think it's a very exciting topic that we have today. So let's start with the state of digital transformation in Malaysia. We all know that digital technologies have been known to be the key drivers to economic development in businesses, government, and wider society. And we have many indexes and rankings to measure our readiness and competitiveness. But not forgetting, when it comes to digital transformation, it's a broad spectrum of things that ranges from hard and soft infrastructure. So I'm going to start with a open question to all. In your point of view, where do you think Malaysia is in terms of digital transformation?
Want to start first?
Yeah.
Let me give it a shot. Okay. Now, when you look at digital transformation, you need to understand what that whole big thing called digital transformation is all about. Okay, and where are we today as a country? You have to look back as to what drives the economy of the country. And when you talk about digital transformation, technology is nothing but an enabler. Okay? And for you to do digital transformation, you need to be interconnected just as well. Okay? So if you break down into those parts, where are we in terms of connectivity? I think you've heard MCMC issuing out its most recent quarterly report with regards to connectivity. I think we're pretty good. Okay? You've got 4G connectivity close to 96% of the populated areas. You've got 7.4 million premises passed with fiber and so on and so forth, right? So you have that information. Second, you've got to look back at what drives adoption. Adoption is a function of what's available and what is convenient to the end user. And when you talk about digital transformation, a lot of investment is to be undertaken by the private sector. So have our private sector invested enough in digital transformation? Okay, it's still the jury is still out there. Okay, for the bigger companies, it's natural for them, but for the smaller companies, they've always been reluctant. So if you look at where we are in terms of the enablers, we are quite there. Whether have we adopted, that's still a question. Will people want to adopt? If it's convenient, they probably would. How many of you do not have MySejahtera in your handphone? Everybody has that, right? Okay, and you use it because you need to do that for you to enter premises. And now that pandemic is, well, not quite over, you still have that in your handphone because you probably will want to use other functionality that's available there. Okay, and the Ministry of Health is pushing for the non-communicable disease management program there. So what I'm trying to say is that if there is a need for people to utilize a digital transaction, they will do that. You have to make it available. It's easy, but for it to be highly available, there needs to be investment. Okay? So at different parts of the whole value chain, we are quite up there and we are quite somewhere in the middle, but net, we are probably in the third quartile, okay, in terms of our digital transformation position today.
I will add on to that, wearing a couple of different hats. And so wearing my former CEO of MDEC hat, which was always talking about digital transformation, I want to get back to the notion of it's not so much transformation, it's a continuous evolution. And so digital really is about making things better, faster, cheaper, and I think certainly we've had the help of the pandemic to make us realize that yes, it's an enabler. We need to leverage digital in order for us to continue to be able to do things that we need to do. So the good news is that from an adoption standpoint, we're in the space right now where we have momentum. So no longer is the conversation you have to debate. People are actually doing it now. And wearing the hat of sitting in big corporations, it's happening. And so big companies like banks, CIMB for example, we talk about all the things that we need to do, but we talk about it as table stakes now. Like you have no choice. Of course, we need to automate these manual processes. Of course, we need to do that. I talk about it from the context of a company that's trying to innovate. So AirAsia, for example, which I'm also a part of today, we're constantly trying to deliver better services to our customers. And so digital is about delivering better services. And so we're all on our way to that. And then you look also at the at the smaller companies. All the big companies are trying to enable SME digitalization. And everywhere now you go, even at the pasar, at the gerai, where people are accepting the fact that kalau tak boleh transact, jual beli guna WhatsApp ni, tak ada client nanti. So you are embracing that. So we are on the way. There's still a lot more that we have to do, but the good news is that we've got momentum. And so we're going to talk more about the skills that's required, infrastructure that's required, but the important thing is where we are, we must not lose the momentum, and we need to in fact build up the momentum from here on.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's very exciting to put in a way that the state of digital transformation for Malaysia currently, we are quite there, and it's growing momentum. In fact, Dato' Zaki, anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Shaza. The digital economy in Malaysia is about 22.5% of GDP now. So we have a sizable GDP economy. We are aiming for almost 26% by 2025. We are taking the right steps. Now, the journey started more than 25 years ago with the Multimedia Super Corridor in 1996. And subsequent policies have all been building on that. The momentum is there, as Surina says, thankfully. now we need to ensure that the enablers continue to evolve, and in my case, I work for Digital National Berhad. We are the single hosted network provider for 5G, and it's important that we ensure that connectivity is delivered as soon as possible so that that momentum can carry forward. What we need is more adoption, as Dr. Fadullah has said, and the people to adopt are you here that will take us to the next level.
And for adoption to continue to increase, connectivity is so key, right? Max, anything to add on that?
Yes, thank you, and I'm glad to go last on this because I wanted to take a slightly different view on digital transformation. I'm more of a fan about the word digital transiting, in that we're moving from a temporary state to another. As Serena mentioned as well, we're in an evolution. Dr. just mentioned digital has been going on for the last 25 years. I think part of this question was, how do we compare with other countries? And the reality of it is digital transformation means different things to different people. Where I worked at before at Gartner, we asked technology companies, what is digital transformation? And these are all leaders, and they all come up with different viewpoints. In Silicon Valley, for example, right now people don't really talk about digital transformation so much. It's about software eating the world, data, automation, AI, machine learning, and cloud migration. So we're already in this phase, and I'm more of a fan of digital business. What does that mean? It's creating new digital business models to create new customer experiences, to develop new business models, to deliver new value creation. And I think all that is now enabled in Malaysia because we have good infrastructure, we have good rule of law, regulation is stable, improving. We have cloud providers coming into the economy. And one data point which I found quite impressive was that a UNICEF study just a couple of years ago showed that 72% of youth in Malaysia are either good or excellent in terms of digital literacy, and that's second highest in ASEAN. So there's a lot of potential here. I think in average, we have better infrastructure than other countries. We have the key ingredients for a digital economy, and I would say let's just get going. We're already there. It's now about digital business models.
Thank you, Max. I like when you say that you're taking an opposing view, and I think that's very refreshing because after all, when it comes to transformation, digital transformation, it's not about moving from point A to point B. It's a journey, right? So I guess digital transition is, it's apt to actually put it how we can put it. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper. Now that we know that we are quite there and we're growing momentum in Malaysia when it comes to digital transformation or digital transition, let's look at a little bit more, let's hear a little bit more on the digital infrastructure. When it comes to digital infrastructure, access and inclusivity is very key. So maybe Dr. Zaki, we have 5G services today available in Putrajaya, Cyberjaya and Kuala Lumpur, which is exciting. But we know 5G, like other technologies, are just tools. So when it comes to bridging the digital divide, what is really about is actually pure connectivity that can be achieved even with the blinking of 2G or 3G, right? Maybe can you share or bust some of the myth when it comes to 5G, as well as some of the plans when it comes to connectivity, that connectivity rollout to ensure inclusive, connection to even the most rural parts of Malaysia?
Maybe I'll start with the connectivity part. Last year, the government launched the Digital Economy Blueprint, and one of the most important drives was connectivity. And the government has made it a point that connectivity is no longer a luxury, it's a right. Just like you have a basic right to water, electricity, you have a right to connectivity. And one of the most important plans was Jendela, and Dr. Fadullah will be very familiar with this, and that's just to hook up 100% 4G connectivity. We're now at about 96%. But as technology evolves, you also need to go to the next level. 5G is an enabler for digital enterprises, or for enterprises. It's not just consumer, because as I think Minister of Finance said this morning, it's not just about downloading Netflix a lot quicker. It is about what you can utilize the high speed, low latency, high capacity 5G. So we are on a mission in DNB to enhance connectivity in Malaysia. We're not just at Saburjaya, Putrajaya and KL. We're now at 35% of the country, and so 5G will be felt by everyone this year in every part of Malaysia. Every state will have 5G towers. We are waiting for the operators to connect you to 5G, but as a single host network, we're already at 35%, and we are moving quickly. We want to ensure fast rollout because 5G is not new. Already more than 70 countries have 5G around the world. There are more than 2,000 cities that are already connected to 5G. What Malaysia is trying to do is catch up because we are one of the slowest in the region. So hence the single host network, Digital National Berhad to accelerate rollout. And we hope to achieve by the end of this year near 40%, by the end of next year near 70%, and 80% by early 2024. And that will be one of the fastest. If you consider 4G taking almost 7 years to reach 80%, and 3G about 6 years, you're looking at just over 3-year rollout, achieving 80%. That's the base, but that's where we talk about connectivity.
That's a remarkable achievement that we've gotten so far from Malaysia. I like the point when Dato' Zaki mentioned about 5G, like I've read the technology is an enabler, and it's not about downloading Netflix the fastest, faster than it is already right now. So the rollout is really also about ensuring the technologies are purposeful, right? Such as enterprises. Okay, so I'm going to move to Serena. I have a question for you. Blockchain is its own technology, right? With huge potential to keep data safe, whether that's banking data, government records, healthcare information, or the kind of data that public records and utilities companies would like to store and preserve. And it's likely to gain broad application across a wide variety of sectors in the coming years. Do you think Malaysia is heading towards this direction given the requirement of the infrastructure?
So I want to touch upon blockchain as just one of many technologies. Most of the time when people talk about blockchain, they bring up like, hey, Estonia is using blockchain. Apa sahaja kita tak ada blockchain? Apa ni? But really, it's one of many things. And in order to actually make, like you said, a country digital, an infrastructure digital, it's one of many things. And so it's a relatively newer technology, and there's still a lot of kinks that needs to be ironed out. People are building, people are doing things. There's lots of conversations happening all around the world, and we're in some of those conversations. I think that broadly speaking, in this realm, we are a follower as opposed to a leader, but we are in those conversations nonetheless. But let's talk about what is required really to actually be, to build an ecosystem that thrives. And so to me, it's a combination of many things. You need the right infrastructure, of course, but you need a conducive environment. You need an environment where you have people that are eager and willing to adopt and try. The good news is that Malaysia is actually a market where we have a robust population of users that's willing to actually try and do new things. And in fact, when you talk about just crypto adoption, we're actually one of the prime markets. Actually, if you look, Binance actually ranks as like number 3. And so there's lots of interest in this market because we have a young population that's eager to try new things. So I think we are getting there. But the other thing that's required also is this whole, when you're trying to do something new, to Max's point earlier, you have different, technology innovation means different things to different people. But if you're trying to do something new, one of the most important things that's required in any ecosystem is courage, is this ability to actually take on a risk. And so that's something that I feel we need to actually do a little bit better as far as Malaysia is concerned. Because generally speaking, across, number one, culturally, we're not necessarily a culture that likes to take on new risk. And so what's missing in our ecosystem is this just risk tolerance. A lot of people say that there's no capital over here to do new things. Actually, there's a lot of capital in Malaysia. It's just the capital that's willing to actually take on risk. That part is missing. And so as we continue to build our innovation economy, try new things, this whole ability to take on risk, to understand risk, and to be comfortable with it, that's what we need.
Thanks, Serena. I like the part you talk about risk tolerance. We may not have that much, but look how far we've come. And I think Malaysia has been courageous, especially enduring what the last few years. And I'm sure there's a lot more up and coming in this room, right? Okay, I'm going to move to Dr. Fazul. I have a question for you. When it comes to digital divide, the spotlight is on Malaysia's actual underserved market. Right, so they are located largely in the rural parts of the country, and Bain estimates 55% of Malaysia's adult population is unbanked or underbanked.
Right. Like when you look at banking, okay, yes, you have those people who have bank accounts, and you have got those who do not have bank accounts. Now, if I just to ask, how many of you in this room do not have a bank account? Everybody has got a bank account, right? Okay. Why do you have a bank account? Because either you're working, okay, that's where your pay goes into, or sometimes you will do that for you to save because you have earned enough to be able to save. There's a small segment of the society, largely the B40s as we like to call them. These are the ones that tend not to have a bank account. Why? Either they are located at places where they don't have access to it, or they don't have enough funds to even save, okay? And therefore they live hand to mouth pretty much on a daily basis. Okay? So in such a situation, how can the government as a policy expedite the adoption of or getting people onto the banking space? Because once you are someone who is defined as has got a bank account, okay, you can do a lot of things. Okay, I heard just now the MC asked that there's some of you out there who practically transact strictly on a cashless basis, right? You don't carry cash. Okay, and why do you do that? Because you are very comfortable in using that account for your own benefit. So coming back to the situation that we have in the country, that 55% adults who are, who've got who are in the banked population, they are largely in the urban and suburban, and probably a little in the rural. But today, many of them actually are banked. See, because the government provides subsidies for the B40, and today the subsidy no longer is given via cash, it's given via an e-wallet, okay, whether you use a touch and go or whether you use Boost and so on and so forth. MOF provides that via that system, where it is then tied back to your MySejahtera. Okay, so in a way, if you were to then reassess whether how many of the adult population are now categorized as having a bank account, then the number would probably be a lot higher than the 55%. Okay. Then you go back to the question of the reason for people to use. If you have an e-wallet, but you do not have the means to utilize your e-wallet, that's useless for you, right? So if you go to a kampong, you go to a local grocery store and say, how to use a QR code? Apa tu QR code? Ada duit boleh lah. Okay, so that's also a problem. And today, with connectivity, it's available. Now, the question of adoption. So this is where PayNet, we are not a regulator. We are an entity that provides, if you want, for better jargon, the middleware of the ecosystem. So you've got the one facing the customers, i.e. the banks, okay? Or I would like to see a lot more fintech players coming into that space. Because when you have all these entities, you then have an ecosystem that allows people to come on board into the ecosystem, and by default, they become a banked population. Okay? And access to that helps today because of connectivity. Just now Dato' Zaki talked about 5G and Jendela. One of the things that we talk about is connectivity, no longer about just mobile connectivity. Because technology today, you either have fixed, you have mobile, and you have satellite. And satellite today, you have high throughput satellite that gives you fast connectivity, high capacity connectivity, probably a lot more expensive compared to, say, fixed and mobile, but the cost to serve in the rural area is very, very key. Okay? If I were to ask you, how many of you have gone to the interior of Sabah called Danum Valley? It takes you 3 days in and 3 days out, okay? And certainly you can't provide towers there. But today they have internet connectivity simply because you've got satellite connectivity. And if the merchants there adopt the digital means to transact, and the fact that handphone penetration is a lot higher today than what it used to be, therefore you then have an ecosystem where people can then transact, and people will then see the value of having a bank account. This is quite similar to what you would see in India when they went on a government policy that for all the poor people, they would have an account called the ADIA program, which is tied to the mobile phones. So they took a different approach, okay? In Estonia, everything is eKYC, tied to your IC is as good as something you have, you keep it in your wallet. By the way, the IC is white in color, ours is blue. Okay, you can keep in the wallet, and all that is tied to their mobile phone. So the mobile phone provider happens to be your equivalent JPN, agent of sorts. Okay? And everything is transacted online. And therefore, in Estonia, you have the banked population close to nearly 100%, because penetration of a phone is also 100% there. And therefore, if we can do that, the same with MySejahtera, I foresee that we have got the enablers. To the question that, to the point that Sarina mentioned, do we have enough players investing in that space to expedite it? Okay, and the VC space in Malaysia, we're very risk averse. Okay, but if you make it good, Alhamdulillah, you can actually drive this very, very fast. And the fact that the pandemic happened, and the fact that the government took an approach of offering subsidies via e-wallet, that was a single main policy that I see in driving the adoption of technology in a banking space by those who did not participate before this.
So if I can add to that, so if you play that forward, so what Dr. Fazlul just said gets to my point around you need the certain elements. And so the momentum that we're building, so now we've got connectivity, eventually we'll have connectivity everywhere. So people have the ability to transact on their devices. So they have the app, the wallet, the whatever. And so when you think about that and you carry that forward, the ability to actually leverage different technology continues on this evolution. So blockchain, for example, enables direct peer-to-peer transactions. And so it could enable direct peer-to-peer globally. And so your global becomes the market. So it opens up a lot more possibility. But in order for you to get there, it requires an understanding of what it is that you're doing, behavior change all around.
Right. So what both of you are saying is that there's so many efforts in Malaysia itself to actually build an inclusive and robust financial ecosystem. And access is basically there, just like connectivity. Adoption, however, comes with, call for a lot of other factors to be also taken into account, right? And when we talk about those who are banked, which is probably more than what we just spoke about, sounded like it, payment is one of the most key one of the most essential infrastructure in any digital finance discussion, right? So maybe Max, if you can share, according to the most recent data by Bank Negara Malaysia, the average number of digital payment transactions per capita in Malaysia has more than quadrupled in the last 10 years. Can you walk us through some of the initiatives in increasing digital financial inclusion?
Sorry. So sure, Shaza, yes, I think we're in the right place to talk about payment infrastructure, in particularly because Bank Negara has played a key role in driving digital financial inclusion in several ways. The first is by promoting competition and encouraging e-payments. And this is not just, say, accepting credit card payments, MasterCard, Visa. This is by promoting other means of payments and making it cheaper as well as convenient. That is the key driver for the statistic that Shaza mentioned, the 4.5 time increase between 2011 to 2021, which, by the way, sounds very low actually. It's probably much higher now in 2022. So that's the first point, Bank Negara driving competition, making it cheaper, customers feeling more comfortable. The second point relates to PayNet. And this is an important factor, and I agree with what Dr. Fazul mentioned, which I'm going to elaborate on a bit more. But by introducing the retail payment platform and products such as Do It Now, JomPay, that has allowed businesses to accept payments instantaneously, seamlessly. And this makes it easier, cheaper for businesses, lowers their working capital. It makes the benefits are both for businesses as well as to their customers. The third one I would touch upon is Rentas, the modernization of Rentas by Bank Negara, making it more resilient from the perspective of cybersecurity, but also allowing non-bank participants to participate in the payment infrastructure, to accept transactions, to be able to transfer funds. And Serena mentioned this earlier, you can see this when you walk into Pasar. You can just see all the different QR codes, the different payment methods that are accepted. And this is coming from the private sector as well. So regarding the point that Dr. Fazul mentioned about fintech, the greatest drive should eventually come from the private sector. Companies taking advantage of the ecosystem, the enablers that have been promoted by Bank Negara, to allow for greater means of convenience, to deliver a new customer experience, to create new value. And so I would give one example that's close to heart, which is at MIDF. So MIDF too, we've innovated. How would you pay for an Apple stock over here? It's not so easy actually to buy an Apple stock. And we have an app called MIDF Invest. So we use FPX, which comes from PayNet, to accept payments in ringgit, instantly create a USD wallet, and there you go, you can pay for your Apple stock. So in the next few years, I think we have digital bank that I would think would be a great catalyst in terms of driving financial inclusion for businesses, but it needs to come from the private sector taking advantage of the ecosystem that we have today.
Thank you. I'm definitely downloading this MIDF Invest app.
Yes, please.
Right,
please try it.
Make sure I'm also included in the initiative. I'd like to stay with you a little bit more. I think we spoke a lot about digital infrastructure as we looked into drive to transition ourselves into a just digital space, right? I would like to talk a little bit more. I would like to hear a little bit more around digital skills and jobs, which is, I think, highly relevant for our audience today. Digital nations result from a combination of factors like infrastructure, regulatory, governance, but most importantly, digital talent, right? So the rapid digitalization in Malaysia has affected the employment space to a great extent, changing the landscape of occupations or profession as well as the associated skills needed. In your current capacity, Max, what are your thoughts on this and what is important for our audience to note here?
Thank you, great question. And this is definitely a challenge for a lot of people in terms of the digital economy. Things are changing. I myself, I'm well past in my 40s, right? So digital happened a little bit later after I did my economics degree. That was well 20 plus years ago. Nowadays, what we see is that there's greater demand and competition for data scientists, for product managers, for software engineers, and more generally, anybody who has some coding skills. By product managers, I mean people who are familiar with like agile methodologies. Agile, not just from the word quick, agile. It's actually, there's something called an agile manifesto. It's about creating things fast. It's not about sitting around in a committee writing about product requirement documents that are 30 pages long. It's about just creating something that works right away, iterate very quickly. Then there are data scientists. Data scientists are people who are going to take advantage of the digital economy, because digital, it's inherently, it's 1 or 0, it's measurement. So there's so much data coming out of the digital economy that data scientists are very important. And more specifically, data scientists who know Python, who know SQL, who are familiar with Power BI and Tableau, sometimes Excel, but those are the kind of technology skills that are really important. Software engineers, there's great demand for people who can code, especially for back-end engineers. It's going to be, the competition is going to be even tougher for companies such as MIDF once the digital banks come online, because they're going to basically draw in all the engineers, the coders, to develop new apps, to iterate very quickly. And more generally, back to the point about the challenge for all of us, something that we've seen in the advanced economies, what key skills are important generally? The ability to learn quickly and the ability to work across functions, to learn quickly, because we don't know exactly what's going to be in 5 years' time. People who can go down to it and learn how to write in Angular or React Native, things which have just come up in the last 5 years, those people will be in great demand. Those people who can work across silos, for example, software engineers who can figure out how to calculate bank transactions and work with compliance, those people are really very valuable, and they're sought after because they get things done. So those are some of the skills that I see being very important in a digital economy.
Thank you.
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
So when I think about digital economy skills and jobs, some people, and there will be certain areas where it's highly specialized. You can't just like learn it overnight. It's kind of like medicine. You can't just be a doctor overnight. There is a process along to it. So there will be certain roles like that. So if you want to be like the AI algorithm programmer, for example, that requires a certain kind of personality, certain kind of skill that you need to build over time. However, there are many other things across the digital spectrum that requires a whole host of skills. And Max touched on it. In fact, the panel this morning also touched on it, this whole ability to continuously learn new things. But the other thing that I feel that's really important in a digital world where we're trying to build digital businesses, it's actually people skills. I submit to you that, hey, the job is actually easy. You want to, and in fact, technology is actually going to be getting easier. So for example, coding. Last time, when some of us took C and Basic and Pascal, those were the languages when we were in school. Now, there's all these no-code, low-code, there's templates already that you build on, and so there are things that you can learn more quickly. The harder part is actually, so the job is easy, unless it's those hyper-specialized, the equivalent of being a brain surgeon kind of jobs. It's the people that's going to be hard. And so if you do not have the ability to work across teams, it's going to be very difficult. And so if you take a step back and you look today, how many of you work in companies, so corporations, raise your hand. So corporates, yes. And so all of you guys, I'm sure one way or another is involved in some kind of digital-ish project. And I think that one of the things that we're all learning across anybody who's trying to do anything digital is the fact, or improving the customer experience, is the fact that things cut across. So now, no longer is it technology sahaja or finance sahaja. In order to launch a new product, You need the entire organization to function properly, because it's the whole end-to-end customer journey that you're looking at. And so this ability to work across silos, work in a team, that becomes very important. And so the job is going to be easy, the people are hard. And I think my worry actually, especially today, is the fact that we're getting more and more used to getting things that we like on demand. So you don't like something on TV, you change the channel. And I worry that if we're not training ourselves to work with people, we will automatically switch off. I don't like that guy from Legal. He's so annoying. I don't even want to work with him anymore. And so you automatically tune out. Or I don't like that person from ministry. So this ministry doesn't want to work with this ministry. And so you cannot solve the problem. So this ability to actually work with people, communicate with people, innovate with people, I think is going to be way, way more important than just the skills itself.
I must say that hit a strong chord in me, because when it comes to digital transformation, the struggle, the skills, those skills that I just want to say that those skills that Max highlighted were highly in demand today, and yes, they're crucial, and it does take a certain kind to actually be able to build them. But like the world, like the market, like businesses, like technology, it will continue to change, and therefore skills as well. However, people, yes, that remain constant, and that will require understanding, empathy, agility, courage to actually go into ambiguity and being able to manage that and actually stay strong, stay steadfast in persevering. So it's true. I must say that, yeah, that is actually the ultimate skills that we need today, and it's actually very hard to also measure because there is no specific domain or a competency when it comes to people's skill per se. Digital transformation, like Serena mentioned, it cut across. The whole organization has to be on it in order for it to actually happen. So there's no one skill. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, and it's going to be, so I'd like to talk about some of the softer things, or it's not hard stats, but one of the things I think that, we talked about building a nation, we talked about being more agile, resilient, but one of the things that we really, really, really need to work on, and so we have this generation on the panel, on the stage, and you have all of you. Personally, I feel one of the most important things is to reduce the power distance index. Malaysia actually has the highest power distance index, which means that somebody that has power and somebody that feels that they don't have power, it's like huge. And that is a danger because in order to have good ideas, innovate, you have to feel that you're comfortable. So if you're not feeling comfortable, you have this huge power distance index, you're not going to get the best ideas. And so for us, I think, as a nation also, we need to feel comfortable voicing our opinions and challenging. And so ask why not? And I mean, that will help us get more comfortable with taking on risk and speaking up, etc., etc.
I must say, sometimes the best idea, in my experience, comes from the weirdest in the room, right? And that's how, change are created. I just want to open up to Dr. Fazil and Dr. Zaki, if you want to add anything on the digital talent.
I think when you look at how the whole dynamics of working will happen moving forward, many of you would realize that you can't work in the space that you were trained in. Okay, that whole notion of unlearning and relearning and learning new things become very, very critical today. Okay, and the next one is communication skills. Many of us tend to be very device-centric. We talk very well to the device, but we do not talk very well to the next person. Serena, alluded to the fact that when you do anything digital, it will cut across every single department within an organization, and therefore there is a need to communicate. But more importantly, I think from a digital skill and talent pool standpoint in Malaysia is that I personally feel that corporate Malaysia do not pay enough. Okay, so what happens is that people who are pretty good get poached. Okay, and today globalization is not something unattainable. Right? I have seen many of my friends, children, who will tell you, "Uncle, I'm flying off to London. I'm getting a job there. I'm flying off to New York or San Francisco," things like that. It's a norm. Okay, during my time, okay, yeah, we are flying to go and study. There's no jobs there. Okay, we were like the pinnacle, having the chance to fly and study overseas. Today it's not. You may have graduated locally, but you are now a global talent. Okay, and if the corporate Malaysia does not pay well enough, we can talk till kingdom come about the lack of talent. It's not that there's a lack of talent. We have enough talent, but we cannot keep the talent in Malaysia. Okay, and that is a very critical problem, which I don't see anyone even looking into the matter. Okay, we talk about brain drain and stuff like that, but in reality, nothing has been done. Okay, so that to me, for you guys, as you grow up in a career, some of you may be already in a position where you can influence decisions. I think this is a conversation that needs to be talked a lot more, especially within the human capital circle.
Well, I can certainly say one of the reasons why I chose to be a board member is to continue to elevate these topics. I'm a big believer that it's an issue, and especially these days, you can work anywhere. And so, what's keeping you have to pay for talent, basically. And now these days, you look around, all the other countries have upped their incentives actually to attract global talent. Singapore, Australia, they have new programs that will to enable people to work there. So we really need to advocate companies to pay more.
Cannot keep losing to our neighbors as well. Yeah, Dr. Zaki.
No, I don't envy your generation. You have a lot more on your plate. Kalau dulu 90-an senang saja, the term then was celik IT, the fact that you kena boleh pakai komputer lah. Yeah. Now, when you talk about celik digital, it's very different. It encompasses a lot more things. What I echo, what my panel members also say is that you have to be willing to learn. And always learn and unlearn and relearn. It's a very difficult skill, because you may not be comfortable in certain areas, but you have to continue doing that, because the digital inclusivity relates not just on connectivity, not just on device. It also includes includes skills. So for example, for DNB, what we're trying to do is we're working with Ericsson to have a digital literacy program with all public universities to start with, and that will probably cover 200,000, and will cover areas like AI, cloud, benda-benda yang memang susah lah, dengar pun mungkin tak faham, but it's not so difficult. It's something that you guys have to already come to terms with. You're also part of the social media generation. Everything's on social media. So that willingness to learn, pick up skills wherever you can, learn from people who know better, I hope that you will do that more and more.
Thanks, Dr. Zaki. Although you don't envy them, I must say, the unlearning and relearning, a book came to mind, Adam Grant, not long ago. I read about that book. The title is Think Again. It talks a lot about unlearning and relearning. The generation today, I do believe, in comparison to the older generation, takes a lot more. It requires a lot more to actually learn that muscle, because it's a muscle. It can be learned. Unlearning and relearning, it's although not easy, but it can be learned. So imagine a cup half full as opposed to a cup half empty. So it requires unloading the existing water inside to learn something new for the older generation in comparison to the younger one. So there is advantages here, I must say. I would like to, anyone else would like to add on that?
I'll just add briefly in terms of learning and then talking about digital, and Serena's absolutely right. I mean, the people skill, the ability to actually communicate something that is complex, technical. If you know it really well enough, you can explain it in a way without having to use jargon. And the big task for me is like explaining it to my 4-year-old who thinks that all I do is talk to my computer all day. And so that communication skill, the skill to communicate something digital but in a real human way, how does it actually impact you, is very important.
So communication is key. People skills are key. I want to talk about diversity and inclusion, right? So we have a little bit more time. As we celebrate the progress of women overcoming entrenched gender bias and moving blockchain in particular tech forward, and being the woman in blockchain, I would like to ask Serena this question: why should we care about diversity in blockchain any more than other technologies?
So I would say we need to care about diversity, period. And so the fact that I'm wearing a blockchain hat is just because I chose a specialized area, and to demonstrate that, hey, even in this most specialized, where you think that it's so technical and so it cannot be, it's the realm of the bros and you cannot be there, that you still need to have diversity in terms of ideas there. And one of the missions that we set out as Women in Blockchain Asia is to help welcome more, so onboard more women into the space, but also show that we want to develop talent all around. That's one of our tenets, the education piece. But make it open to show the possibility. So one of the things I'm very proud to share is the fact that we launched a program with one of the blockchain protocols, actually, and we're teaching blockchain to 7 universities, and we're running our first intra-university hackathon with 160 blockchain developers. Close to 50% are women. Who would have thought? But that's the point. It's just to show that we want to welcome inclusivity everywhere, and this is just one specialized area. Diversity is important, especially now, all around, because we need ideas. It's not just so much, we need a woman there because she's a woman. No, not at all. We want the best ideas, we want the best talent, and you need to open that talent pool. Especially more so that today, like 30, 45, 50 years ago, businesses could compete on optimization. Like if you do something really well, there's a business playbook, you follow it, and then you extract costs out of it. And so there's ways, there's certain things that it's a factory, basically. A factory is run a certain way. Today, businesses are not about that anymore. It's about how do you delight your customers. So you need innovation, you need ideas, and ideas come from everywhere, and that's why diversity is really important in everything. Imagine like if the whole government, your whole leadership team they all look the same. You're going to get the exact same ideas, and so that may not represent you. So that's why diversity is actually important, and diversity of age, diversity of race, diversity of experience.
Diversity is indeed very key when it comes to transitioning to a just digital space. So maybe for the rest of the gentlemen, any thoughts on this?
I think diversity, nature tells you that in a very diverse ecosystem, you tend to have the better produce. Okay, homogeneous means you're going downhill. Okay, today I'm quite happy to see the crowd that you have probably a 50-50 spread between the gender. Okay, and also you've got a good mix of of race within the crowd. Now, that is what at least I would look for. Okay, when I run my organization. Okay, and today I think there will be a natural thing that will happen. Okay, this is not good news for the guys. Okay, when I went to university, there were 4 guys and 1 lady. Today, if you go to university, it's 3 ladies and there's only 1 guy. Okay, true? right? Okay, so trust me, 10 years down the road, when you talk about gender equality, it's the other gender that will be talking about gender equality.
Very, very
Okay.
interesting
Yeah.
perspective.
But everybody, janganlah takut. No, don't be afraid of us. Huh? Dr. Fazal?
So, like I said, so hence, diversity is key. The question is, how fast can you drive that diversity? Okay, today, the natural order will happen, but if you can expedite that whole diversity adoption, okay, irrespective of gender, race, color and creed, that would probably be the best thing for us to all target. Okay. And I hope the younger generation, you're more open to that sort of ideology, because sometimes people find it's always easier to talk to someone having a lot more common areas to talk about. Okay, but I think the world today allows you to talk to many people, and you allow you to enjoy different experiences. Okay, and that in itself is a form of diversity.
I think this whole diversity, the whole notion behind it is also, it's about equal representation, right? It's not just about a woman fight, but it's about making sure no one gets left behind, so that everyone gets included, everyone gets access, things like that. So I do agree to that. I'd like to maybe open up to one more, if anyone would like to engage on that question. But just to remind our audience, you can actually submit your questions here. I'll be taking out right after this, if anyone would like to add just on the diversity and inclusion topic.
It's a great question in terms of diversity. So in my team, digital business, 35% are women. It's not 50-50, and it's still a bit rare to find a woman in the organization sometimes. And what I feel is important is that when we recognize that there are women in the organization, we help them, nurture them, and empower them to become leaders. I think that's one example that I can provide in terms of how we can improve the diversity in my organization.
All right, thanks, Max.
I just want to add, it's in technology and digital, women are still underrepresented, so we do need to work on it, and I think affirmative action support groups are very important. In DNB, we've got about a third women and 2/3 men, and I think that's probably right across a lot of telcos as well. So we do need more effort here, and I think it's important that we have such affirmative programs to get them more comfortable, to get the ladies more comfortable to be part of this work.
Therefore,
And we need programs at home too, because that's the other thing. Like, you can have all these things at work, but you also need programs at home, i.e., we have to invest in childcare, we need to invest in like home care, we need to invest to make sure like the husbands know how to make the bed and clean the dishes and all that also, etc., etc.
Therefore, the efforts and the fights continues, right? Okay, so we're going to move on to some of the questions. I think they're questions from the audience, and I'm going to read out the most liked questions, which is actually for Dr. Zaki. How DNB viewed themselves as the SWN provider of a 5G, while this model has been proven a failed one by the open connectivity industry?
Sorry, by what?
I'm going to repeat it again. Is it also on screen? Okay. How DNB viewed themselves as the SWN provider of 5G, while this model has been proven a failed one by the open connectivity industry.
Okay, I don't quite know who the Open Connectivity Society is, but infrastructure sharing is common around the world, and is the cheapest way to get services out. How many electricity grids are there in Malaysia? One, Tenaga Nasional. Do you have many water pipes going to you? You have different water pipes, different service providers? No. So the idea of DNB is very simple. It's a single hosting network. We accelerate rollout, we lower implementation cost because everyone's sharing the same infrastructure. We optimize resources. A lot of people, I say this word spectrum. Spectrum is a scarce resource that you need to optimize and make sure that it's enjoyed by everyone. you want to ensure that DNB or 5G creates jobs. So the single hosted network is meant to be an infrastructure sharing mechanism or infrastructure. It is it's common around the world. So I don't quite know where it's failed. It's not done in Malaysia. Right now you have different telcos having their own networks. So Maxis has its own network, Celcom has its own network. But what has happened with 5G is that it costs about 2.4 times to roll out 5G versus 4G. So if you don't share infrastructure, I think the model works. In sharing works around the world and ensures that we can accelerate rollout and the benefits of 5G can go to consumers and enterprises as quickly as possible.
I agree. Thank you.
Can I just add on to Dato' Zaki's point? Okay, some of you would have studied in the UK, right? How many of you studied in the UK? Okay, and when you pay for electricity bill, you have an option to pay from a variety of providers. True? Okay, but are you aware that the cable that comes to your house is still the same blinking cable? Right? Unless you have 10 cables coming to your house. No, right? Okay. Now, what is happening there in the UK is that it's a shared infrastructure, okay, and what you actually have is competition at the service end, and that's exactly what DNB does. Okay, it provides a common infrastructure, and therefore competition is at the retail end. For the vendors who are big lobbyists, they like to see infrastructure competition. If you have 4 networks in the country and you have vendor A getting all the 4 jobs, they end up getting 4 contracts, right? Big money. As opposed to now only having 1 network and probably 1 vendor might get it. It could be vendor A, it could be vendor B. That's a different ball game. So hence, these are the guys that will go out to tell you that it has failed everywhere else. Okay? It can work provided we make sure that it works. What you need, as Dato' Zaki mentioned, we have not jumped into the 5G space fast enough. We are playing catch up. And if you try to do the same thing again and hoping for a different result, Einstein says you are just insane, right? So therefore you need to do something different, and spectrum is limited. Whether you are here, US, China or Timbuktu, it's the same amount of spectrum that's available per country. You cannot increase that. Okay, and when people tell me when I was in MCMC that they need more spectrum, my answer to them is, you have a direct line to God, you let me know. Okay, because spectrum is already spoken for and is fully utilized. And Malaysia, this is the best part, we are the greatest consumer of data. We are the 2nd highest data user in the world after Taiwan. God knows what you guys do, okay? But if you have a lot of data...
Actually, there's a website, right, that lists out
yes.
what people do.
And games is actually our biggest thing, okay, and chats. Anyway, but what I'm trying to get at from a technical standpoint is, if you split up your spectrum and you have the dynamics of high data usage, in no time you will have data jams, just like your traffic jam on the highway. Okay, so you go figure out who's right, who's wrong. Thank you.
No, can I just also add, DNB is going to roll out the 5G network for 16.5 billion over 10 years. Now, anyone saying 69 billion is small money, that's not right, lah. Yeah, it's a lot of money, yeah. Do you know how much the telcos have spent on 4G to roll out? So they've already spent 27 billion, more than 27 billion. And then with JENDELA, they will spend another total with JENDELA money as well. It will be about 40 billion ringgit for 4G. So you can see the obvious benefit of 5G. Implementation costs come down. You guys are paying, I'm paying 2 ringgit a GB. I've got a 50 GB plan, I'm paying 98 ringgit. And so that's about 2 ringgit. With 5G sharing, infrastructure sharing, we are selling wholesale cost to telcos. If anyone here knows, then I'll take him out to lunch. How much per GB that DNB is selling? So DNB will sell per GB to telcos at less than 20 sen. Kurang 20 sen. So do you think that's better for you? Will be more affordable, right? And inclusivity includes also, as I said, device coverage, skills, but you have to be able to afford it too. So if we are able to bring down cost per GB, then all the better. And as Dr. Fadullah says, you guys use a lot of data in Malaysia. So we want to see that data costs come down over time.
Can I just, I think it's great to have all these things. But one thing that we all have to do as consumers, as citizens, is to make sure that we hold the people that's supposed to be delivering all the services accountable. And so continue to voice out, continue to be active. We had a conversation earlier about transportation and highways earlier. And so, yeah, the intent is good. Build more highways, this and that, but we need more things. And so continue to be a voice out there and advocate for the things that you think that we all need to do that, for the things that we think we all need.
Thank you.
Hence to the point that you want to see service-based competition, okay? Because when it's service-based competition, it's closer to the consumer, right? So that's entirely exactly what the philosophy is all about. But don't get caught in the whole conundrum of people debating on things that they think they know. Okay, they only see from a very narrow viewpoint. Okay, unfortunately.
Thanks. Since we're running out of time, right? Yes. Okay. So that was unfortunately or fortunately a very hot topic. The only question that we managed to get for today. Just to close this session, I would like to probably just open up for every speaker to give some of your thoughts or comments or messages to deliver to the audience. As we Malaysian, all of us, looks into becoming a fully developed, inclusive and sustainable digital nation. Maybe from Zaki? Sure.
Perhaps I'll start, and to add to Dr. Zaki, what he said in terms of lowering the costs and the infrastructure is so crucial. That will drive inclusion. That's really important to avoid the digital divide. The other part about service-based competition Dr. Fazal mentioned, I think will be one of the safeguards to push DNB and other providers of infrastructure to improve, to keep improving, so that at the end of the day, the customers benefit.
Dr. Fazal?
Just a few. I think for the younger generation, I hope you guys will become what I call as people who will do the digital change. Okay, because you are the new voice. Okay, and today service is based on what the consumer needs. Okay, long have gone when it's a provider-driven solution. It's a demand-based solution. Okay, and digital provides that. You guys are the digital champions of the future. Thank you.
I just want to say how encouraged I am to see so many faces here that are concerned and want to build a better nation. And I think congratulations to you guys for that. Continue to learn. I think in my own personal journey, I've gone through many phases as well and been picked up skills. And I hope that you guys continue to do that. There's a lot of content out there, and you can only benefit from it. I think there are 51 million YouTube channels, for example. I don't think anyone can watch 51 million YouTube channels, but there's a lot of content out there that you can benefit from as long as you're willing to learn. And I hope and pray that you guys take on the baton of leading Malaysia in the near future and do a good job. Do a good job for my children, do a good job for my grandchildren, because we're depending on you. And so all the best.
Last but not least.
And for me, my takeaway, my call to action, my reminder is, hey, being in your shoes, It's so easy these days, and even for us in our 40s, thinking ahead, we still have a long way to get lost in all the confusion, the minutia, the this and that. You hear one thing on TV, on the internet, on macam-macam. So it's so easy to get lost into all the doom and gloom and, oh yeah, we're all so screwed because, you know, tadi one of the panels said 2093 was something big was going to happen, machines going to take over or something like that. But anyway, so my reminder to you is develop this skill, because that confusion, that uncertainty is always going to be there, one form or another. So develop this skill of always trying to reframe, see the positive see the opportunity in the challenge, see the positive in all the discussion. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in like, oh, life sucks. What's the whole point? And so don't do that. And so kudos to the fact that you're all here and you're all part of the Perdana Fellows community and the Youth Economic Forum community. And so I'm looking at wonderful faces. It gets me excited, actually. So thank you for sharing your energy with us today.
So, there you have it, our distinguished speakers. As we transition into a just digital space, all of us plays a vital role to remain in that journey and continue to progress and build momentum. Thank you so much for all your attention.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, big hands to our speakers and moderators. Thank you so much. And now we would like to invite our co-director, Mr. Wei Mingzhi, to be up on the stage to present token of appreciations to our speakers and moderator.
First of all, we would like to thank Mr. Max Azaham for being here with us today. Dato Ahmad Zaki Zahid.
All right, we would like to thank our speakers, Mr. Max Azaham, Dato Ahmad Zaki Zahid, Dato Dr. Fadula Suhaimi, and Ms. Surina Shukri for joining us today, and also our moderator, Ms. Nushazana Amiruddin, who moderated the discussion. Let's take a group photo together. Alright, as we are venturing into digital space, I believe that there's a lot more issue for us to discuss about and to delve into. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep this conversation going. If you have any ideas, just feel free to let us know. Alright, thank you so much to our speakers and moderator. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, lunch is served. You may enjoy your lunch at the cafeteria or the conference hall 1 located at the ground floor. We'll see you back here later, an hour later, which is 2:30 p.m. Alright, 2:30 p.m. we will ring a bell at the dining area. Yeah, so be sure to join us back here at the auditorium. Alright, enjoy your lunch. And if you have some free time during your break, be sure to visit the exhibition that we have for you at the hall entrance. Alright, we'll see you later for our next agenda.